Greetings, 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 greetings. It is I, King Clifford Jefferson. I Senator Godfrey, the fifth kind of Jew, the son of folk, the ruler of Jerusalem. It is February the 1st, 2025, which is equivalent to the birth year 2975. I greet you in the name of my Queen, Sister Godwinson from the House of Godwinson. I greet you in the name of Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont. I greet you in the name of Countess Cersei from the House of Cersei, as well as all officers and third Church of England. I greet you in the name of the predecessors, the ancestors, the successors. All right. It's very important we understand that we have to honor our ancestors. All right. From time immemorial, from a time when we were not on this planet to the time when we got on this planet. That would only mean that we are what we call the children of God. Okay. The children of God. All right. We have a hard time understanding that concept. Majority of the time it's abstract and there's no concrete to it. So that's my job today, to bring it in a full circle. So with that, we get started with this beautiful lesson. I give people a little bit, couple more minutes to come on. Once again, if you're here, please join the chat. If you're here, please join the chat. Okay. Come on in here, y'all. Come on in here, y'all. Greetings, Countess Middleton. Greetings, Countess Middleton. Glad you were able to join me this evening. I have a great one for us today. All right. We're going to learn about Ra, Horus, Bren, Blind Serpent. Okay, we're gonna realize that they all have one thing in common, and that's they relate to us. Okay, they relate to us, the English, Anglo-Saxon, Berbers, the monuments, the tombs, the burial mounds, the castles. All this belongs to us. The illustrious people misnomer as Negro, but we understand the word Negro is a word that originated once again from Spain, originated in Castile. Okay, and we understand that the kings of Castile were the ones who were defending the what we call the Spanish Empire. Okay, on the Iberian Peninsula. All right, from the time of when it was occupied by Rome, called Hispanio, all the way up until the time when we fell under the authority of what we call authority of Al-Andalus, okay, by the invasion of the Umayyad dynasty. All right, and that resulted as a result of the invasion or conquest of the Maghreb, all right, by the Arab invasion. But nonetheless, the family that was trying to protect the homeland, whether we were on the African continent, on the Iberian, or the what we call the continent of Spain, as well as in here in North America, as well as in England, all right, they were in fact the Anglo-Saxon Berbers. Okay, but today it's a special day today because we're going to go back and understand ourselves before we were or even came to be on this planet. Okay, before we even came to be on this planet. So we have to give honor to the mother and the father because the mother is the where we get our mitochondrial DNA, but our father is where we get our nuclear DNA. okay, which gives us the ability to come from nothing to something, okay, from nothing to something, okay, but still is a part of everything, okay. It still is a part of everything. You'll never hear another lesson like this today in your life. It's like the past too, the origin of the Jews, the origin of the Negroes. All right, all that is reflected by today's lessons because I'm going to use all that was talked about in those past two lectures and bring it full circle with this lecture. Okay, so we all have to pay very close attention. Okay, very close attention. This lesson is really about the God gene. Okay, because we are truly the gods. Okay, we are the sons of gods. Okay, we are the daughters of gods. We are the children of gods. Okay, our parents are the gods. All right, so this we will come to fruition with today's lesson. Right? Let's see. Let's start here. So the past two lectures, our focal point was on the term Negro, which originated from Spain. And we know Spain, the origin where the word Negro originated in Spain was what we call Castile. And the territory known as Spain was ruled by the kings of Castile, which goes all the way back to what we call the Hispanio-Visigoth tribes, known as the Byzantine Empire. Okay, so with that being said, and with that being learned, we can now move on and go more in depth about the relationship that we have with Spain. Okay, not just on the Iberian Peninsula, not just in Jerusalem, not just here in North America, because we all have one thing in common: the custom and the culture. Okay, the custom and the culture. Okay, which was passed down through time and time and time, called by many other names, but still represents the same thing. Okay, you just don't see it that way because of your perception. Okay, your perception. I always say, he who writes your books sets your timeline. Time never was when man was not. As the life of time begin, the time will come when man will be no more. We know all things are subject to time and space. That means that all things are subject to what we call universe, because the universe consists of all time and space. Okay? That means all things that are made of mass, matter. Okay? Even though you can't see it, it still has mass. Okay? Even though you can't see it, it still has mass. Okay? So we're going to talk about all this today and bring it full circle. But the way we want to start today is here. This is going to be our focal point. All right. This is going to be our focal point. The Ira. Everyone's seen this symbol before. And the Eye of Horus. The Ira and the Eye of Horus. And the biblical story is simply the Father and the Son. Okay? So you got your Egyptian story of the Ira and the Eye of Horus. And then you got your biblical story of the Ira and the Eye of Horus. Okay? But now you're going to have the historical and concrete understanding of the Ira and the Eye of Horus. Okay? Because we know the latter, Ra, and Horus just represents the sun. Okay? Where all light, energy, information comes from. The word I is just symbolic of the physical attribute that used to be able to receive that information that's derived from the sun. This is what we call transduction. Okay? Transduction. Okay? Transduction is to be able to interpret the stimuli as a result of the energy that it was transmitted from. Okay? And the stimuli that we receive is the stimuli from our ancestors, all right, which is embedded in our cellular memory, which we call engrams, okay? Which by us using our mental faculties, it causes a chemical reaction that we'll be able to remember from the time which we physically cannot go. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. This is why you see the symbolic representation of the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus. The only thing that you don't know is its meaning. Okay, you got a religious reading, you got a mythology reading, you got a religious, any other concept that they throw at you, but there's no historical, there's no legal and lawful proof. All right, so you're gonna have it today. So once again, the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus, which represented what we call the Ren. Okay, the Ren. Okay, and Egyptian is called the Wadjet. Okay, it's called the Wadjet. Okay, in ancient Mexico or ancient under the Spanish Empire, it was called Quetzalcoatl. Okay, Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan. It went by many other names. Okay, and the biblical time was called the flying serpent. Okay, but this is what we're going to talk about today to bring it full circle. All right, so let's get it. The eye. What is the eye? Or the eyes? Okay, eye. Looking at it from a physiology, okay, physiology and dealing with chemistry, the physiology of the chemistry of the purpose of the eyes, okay, that's what we're looking at. The physical chemistry that results in the physical aspect of what we see called the eyes, but something is going on other than what we see with the eyes on a cellular level, okay. This is what we need to understand, okay, to understand this lesson. So I'm gonna take you by the hand and take you real slow that there can be no confusions. Okay? It simply says here, we know Wikipedia is for baby food, so I'm gonna slow it down. All right, rather than going to those universities and those what we call biology class and all this other stuff, I'm gonna give it to you simple. All right. An eye is a sensory organ that allows an organism. You hear that? All living organisms got eyes to perceive visual information. All right? To receive visual information from the Father to the Son, from Ra to Horus. Okay? It detects light and converts it into electrical, chemical impulses in neurons. Okay? And is a part of the organism's visual system. I repeat, you are an organism, okay? You are an object, okay? You're not human, you're an object. An eye is a sensory organ that allows an organism to perceive, okay? Perceive is a mental faculty, all right? It's not a faculty of what we call sense, okay? This is the stimuli. All right. Sensory works by what we call stimuli, not sense. All right. Very much. Very important that you understand this. Okay. Because a lot of time we work off sensory. Okay. We have our eyes closed and we assume based upon uh, um, our perception of our surroundings. Okay. Based upon what we see on the outside world. But we have to look at this from the inside world because we have to go back before we became even living beings, human beings, organisms, cells, etc. We have to go back to the original chemical reaction that took place before we became physical. That's why the eyes are so important, okay? That's why the eyes are so important. That's what the Wadjet means, the flying serpent means, okay? So once again, an eye is a sensory organ that allows an organism to perceive visual information. It detects light and converts into an electrical chemical impulses in neurons. It is part of the organism visual system. If you don't use your eyes, then you're left to your other five faculties. Okay? This is nothing more than the process of what we call transduction. Okay? Transduction in physiology. I don't know why school didn't teach you this, but you're being taught now. Okay? So that means you're going inside yourself. You're not using your faculties such as taste, touch, smell, sight, and hearing. Okay? All those tools are just for discernment. Okay? But all that information that you receive through those five faculties had to go up to what? The brain. Okay? The brain is in the box. It don't have eyes. It don't have ears. It don't have mouth. It don't have a nose. All right? It's stuck in the box. All right? Getting all these chemical signals that come rushing in, and you consciously have to make sense of that. Okay? You consciously have to make sense of all that incoming information, pretty much like a computer. So in physiology, transduction is the translation. Y'all don't hear me. Physiology deals with the physical self, the physical being. You have a physical being, which you call the physical self, and you have an astral being called the astral self, okay? Which we call the etheric beings. And physiology transduction is the translation of arriving stimulus into an action potential by a sensory receptor, and it begins with the stimulus changes the membrane potential of a sensory receptor. Okay? A sensory receptor converts the energy into a stimulus into an electrical signal. Receptors are broad splits into two main categories. Exteroceptors, which receive external sensory stimuli, and interoceptors, which receive internal sensory stimuli. So when you're dealing with external sensory stimuli, you're dealing with your five senses. When you're dealing with the internal stimuli, you're dealing with your mind. Okay? You're dealing with the impulses that the mind has to discern based upon the chemical reaction that's happening on a cellular level. Okay? It's happening now. Whether you know that. Just look at the diagram. From the sun, Ra, okay? From the sun, Ra, from the father, Ra, to the sun. You're the sun. But you receive information not from communicating with the sun like we do from talking to each other, but from the electrical information that's happening on the cellular level that you receive based upon your visible intake of incoming information that's told on the cellular level, which is based upon collection, then transduction, which means to translate, the brain process it, and then you move into what they call potential energy, potential action. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody who's here on the chat? Please give me a thumbs up right now before I go on. Give me a thumbs up in the chat right now. So if that's the case, you must understand the term we call engrams. Engrams is a unit of cognitive information imprinted in a physical substance, okay? Physical. Your physical self, physiology. So an engram is a unit of cognitive information and a physical substance theorized to be the means by which memories are stored. As biophysical or biochemical changes in the brain or other biological tissue in response to what? External stimuli. They're talking about your five faculties: taste, touch, smell, sight, hearing. They're not talking about your external stimuli, which is a mental faculty that you have to make sense based upon the impulses that you receive from your visual intake, called what we call it transduction. You can do it with your other faculties too. But when one of those aren't working, you go to the other. Okay? Very, 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 very important for you to comprehend that. I know you don't understand it right now, but you should by the time I finish this lesson. All right. So we know what engrams are. Okay. So our ability is to understand ourselves on a biophysical and biochemical level, which is there with the cellular level and what's going on within the cell, i.e., RNA, i.e., DNA, i.e., eukaryotic, i.e., prokaryotic cells, which are extraterrestrial, which helps in the manifestation from non-life to physical life, which we call embryogenesis. It is called embryogenesis. Let's look at that. So you can realize that you're not actually physical beings. Because the wren, the flying serpent, the Wadjet, which represents the eyes of Horus and the eyes of Ra, this is what they're talking about. Why? Because they're talking about transduction, being able to translate incoming information and not outcoming information, because outcoming information deals with everything that's subject to time and space, everything that's subject with the universe. Okay? When you are not subject to time and space, because your mind is not subject to time and space. Okay? So you must go within. And for you to do that, you must understand embryogenesis. Okay? Embryogenesis. Embryogenesis is the natural process by which life arises from non-living matter, everything in the universe, okay? Space, time, okay? Space, time is subject to the three-dimensional world, past, present, and future, okay? So embryogenesis is the natural process by which life, okay, arises from non-living matter, okay, prokaryotic cell, to living matter, the eukaryotic cell, and it starts the process by simple organic compounds. The prevailing scientific hypothesis is that the transition from non-living to living entities on Earth was not a single event, so that means it didn't happen by chance. Okay? It did not happen by chance. All right. It says the prevailing scientific hypothesis is that the transition from non-living entities on Earth was not a single event, but a process of increasing complexity involving the formation of habitable planets, the prebiotic synthesis of organic molecules, molecular self-replication, self-assembly, and autocatalysis. Okay? Very important that y'all comprehend that. And the emergence of cell membranes, the transition from non-life to life has never been observed experimentally, but most proposals have been made for different stages of the process. You're learning it right now. All right? You're learning it right now. The study of abiogenesis aims to determine how pre-life chemical reactions gave rise to life under conditions striking different from those on Earth today. This is evolution. All right? This is evolution. We know in the Bible, God created everything else before he created humans. Okay? They was the last thing that was created, and if that was created, that means that they are not created in the image of God, because everything that's created in the image of God is not subject to what we call uh, 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 time, subject to time or space. Okay? You're not subject to time or space. Those things subject to time or space are those things composed of what we call matter. Okay, because the word matter means mass, means volume. Okay, that means mass means volume. Okay, your mind is not subject to mass or volume. Okay, mind is based upon chemical reactions that you call electrical signals. All right. All right. This happens on a cellular level. Okay. And the time for it or the clock to go off is now. Okay. It is now. The study of embryogenesis aims to determine how pre-life chemical reactions gave rise to life under conditions strikingly different from those on Earth today. It primarily uses tools from biology and chemistry, with more recent approaches attempting a synthesis of many sciences. Life functions through the specialized chemistry of what? Carbon and water. All right? We don't know nothing about silicone. Okay? Silicon being versus carbon beings. That's the key. And built largely upon four key families of chemicals: lipids of cell membranes, carbohydrates such as sugars, amino acids for protein metabolism, and nucleic acid DNA and RNA for the mechanism of heredity. You hear that? Any successful theory of embryogenesis must explain the origin and interaction of these classes of molecules. Okay? This is called embryogenesis. Okay? Embryogenesis. All right. So we understand from non-living matter to matter, mass, volume. Okay. Three-dimensional. From one-dimensional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional. That's the state of evolution. Okay. When God said, "Let us create man in our image and our likeness," he wasn't talking about the evolutionary man. Okay. Because God is not subject to what we call time and space. But yet God is speaking. So how is God speaking? He's speaking through what? The process of transduction. This was taught in all the schools of all the ancient schools, whether you were in Mexico, whether you were in England, whether you were in the Iberian Peninsula, whether you were in Africa. This is the purpose of the temples. This is the purpose of the mounds, because they were burial mounds, because they understood the process of the afterlife. You must understand the process of the afterlife to make it to the afterlife, because this is what you call the extraterrestrial life, life outside of Earth. Let's get it. Nucleic acid and double helix. RNA, DNA. In molecular biology, the term double helix refers to the structural form by double-stranded molecules of the nucleic acid, such as DNA. The double helical structure of nucleic and complex arises as a consequence of the secondary structure and is a fundamental compound and determined in tertiary structure. Okay, nucleic acids, RNA, and DNA. Okay, but then you also have what you call nuclear DNA. Okay, nuclear DNA is very, very important for you to understand that. All right, let's move forward. This goes into what we call extraterrestrial life. Okay, we are we are descendants of those who descended from extraterrestrial life. Okay, very important for you to understand that mentally. You don't have to do it physically, but you have to understand it mentally for the shift to take place. Okay, this is what our ancestors knew. All right, I'm going to show it. What is the extraterrestrial life without the spookism? Extraterrestrial life or alien life is a life that originates from another world rather than on Earth. No extraterrestrial life has yet been scientifically conclusively detected. Such life might range from simple forms such as prokaryotic to intelligent beings, possibly bringing forth civilization that may be far more or far less advanced than human beings. The Drake equation speculates about the existence of sapient life elsewhere in the universe. The science of extraterrestrial life is known as what? Everyone said astrobiology, the study of the stars. Okay? The studies of the stars. One of those essence of life from outside the planet is what we call a prokaryote. The prokaryote is what the nuclear DNA comes from that gives life to what we call the eukaryote that starts the process of what we call evolution through the beginning stage of what we call autocatalysis, which starts the process of what we call embryogenesis. Okay, from non-living matter to matter, okay? We must understand that. That is called transduction. Let's look at it again. Transduction. All right. Physiology, transduction is the translation of arriving stimulus to a active attention by sensory receptors and begins with the stimulus changes that the membrane potential of a sensory receptor. So with that, we'll go here. All right. We will go right here. The God gene. Okay. The God gene. Through transduction, you are able to cut on the God gene. Okay. The God gene, by being able to interpret what it is that I'm telling you today, you are switching on your God gene. Okay. It's called the VMAT2 transporter gene. All right. The VMAT2 transporter gene. We know what the word transport means, right? Transport, to move from one place to another. All right. That's called digital uploading. Immortality is done to what they call mental uploading and digital uploading. Let me just pull that up. Immortality. All right. Immortality. Very, 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 very simple. Nothing spooky about it. Greetings, Brother McGow from the House of McGow. Y'all got to be on time. You'll miss out if you're not on time. You turn your head for 1 minute, mess around and forget the person in front of you. And now you stuck at the fork in the road. Which way to go? Which way to go? Immortality. Immortality is the concept of eternal life. Some species possess biological immortality due to a apparent lack of the Hayflick limit. Okay? Very, very, very important. Let's see. Where's it at? Sometimes they changed it. Hold on. Oh, here we go. Right here. All right. Some scientists, futurists, and philosophers have theorized about the immortality of a human body, which some suggest that human immortality may be achievable in the first decade of the 21st century with the help of certain speculative technologies such as mind uploading. You hear that? Mind uploading or digital uploading. When they do it through digital uploading. Okay, that's why they always bring you in the hospital and run tests on you. Okay, versus mind uploading. What is mind uploading? You're doing this right now. Okay, you're doing this right now. Mind uploading. Let's read the definition. Your physical ain't got nothing to do with what's going on right now. Okay, remember, you getting information from the father to, to you, the son or the daughter, okay? Known as what they call Ra, Amun Ra, or what we call Horus, okay? Which is known as the Wadjet or the flying serpent, or in Mesopotamia, not Mesopotamia, in Mesoamerica, it was called Quetzalcoatl, okay? And we know that the flying serpent didn't originate by as Quetzalcoatl, okay? Because that was one of the names given to him by the ones who descended from the Olmecs, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas, etc. They all had their expression of the flying serpent, okay, which we're going to talk about in a second. So mind uploading is a speculative process of whole brain emulation, which the brain is used to complete emulate the mental state of an individual in a digital computer. The computer would then run a stimulation of the brain information process such that it would respond in essential the same way as the original brain and experience having a sentient conscious mind. So this is pretty much what we call mental uploading, okay? Mind uploading, okay? From your physical self to your spiritual self, okay? From your chemical self to your etheric self, okay? This is all happening on an etheric and chemical level to what they call energy potential. Okay, energy potential. All right, you don't believe me? Well, hear it from somebody else. I'm not making it up. Let's hear it from somebody else. Okay, and then you tell me if it's time. Because you said it happens at, they're going to say it's going to happen at a certain time that the God gene turn on. Okay, that the God gene turn on. All right. So if it's not happening right now, that means your switch has not clicked on. Everyone need to save this video.
Wonder how the brain regulates neurotransmitters? Well, the answer may lie in VMAT2 inhibitors. So what's this all about? Let's delve into the fascinating world of neuroscience.
You see the computer?
VMAT2, or vesicular monoamine transporter 2, is an integral membrane protein.
Let me move back.
It assists in the regulation transporter 2 is an integral membrane protein. It assists in the world of neuroscience.
Now they just said mental upload immortality can be achieved through what? Through digital uploading and mental uploading. Okay, when they haul your butt up in that hospital, they put you under a digital machine. Okay, but they're showing you a brain with a computer chip in it. I did a lesson on that. In regards to the body or the physical self, the body is a computer, all right, or the brain is a computer. I forgot how I titled it, but you need to go back and watch that. And it's all about the associated with the VMAT2 gene, which we're talking about. Okay, but as you can see, they have a like a circuit board. Okay, and as you can see on the, which will be the right side, there's a chip. Without that chip, there will be no information going back and forth through the circuits. Okay, very very important to understand that in regards to what's going on inside your body, because just like they can digitally upload this information, you can mentally upload this information. Okay, with a higher through a medium. Okay, it's called a medium. Okay, light travels through a medium. Energy travels through a medium. Okay, by way of vacuum. Okay, I ain't got time to break that down, but let's nonetheless just go on with the video.
VMAT2, or vesicular monoamine transporter 2, is an integral membrane protein. It assists in the regulation of neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers that are crucial for the communication between nerve cells. VMAT2 plays a key role in packing these neurotransmitters into vesicles, tiny bubble-like structures that transport them across the nerve synapse. Now, enter VMAT2 inhibitors. These are substances that have the ability to block the function of VMAT2. And what happens when VMAT2 is blocked? The packaging and release of neurotransmitters are controlled. Think of it like a dam controlling the flow of water. In this case, VMAT2 inhibitors are the dam and neurotransmitters are the water. So VMAT2 inhibitors are like a switch controlling the flow of neurotransmitters in our brain. Now you might be asking, how do these VMAT2 inhibitors work? Well, let's dive right in. You see, VMAT2 inhibitors have a unique way of function. They bind or attach themselves to a protein called vesicular monoamine transporter 2, or VMAT2 for short. This protein has a pretty important job. It's responsible for transporting neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers in our brains, into tiny storage units known as vesicles. These vesicles then release the neurotransmitters into the synapse, the gap between neurons, when the time is right.
You hear that? They said when the time, hear what you just said? It releases it when the time is right. Okay? It releases it when the time is right. We know the God gene is the VMAT2 gene that allows you to be able to interpret or translate incoming and outcoming electrical signals into an impulse. Okay, whether it's externally or what we call externally, internally or externally. Okay, which is the process called what? Everybody said. Come on, your memory can't be that short. Transduction. Okay, translating incoming signals. Okay, not by you looking at it with your physical eye. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about this is happening on a molecular level, okay? A biophysical level, a biochemical level, okay? This is called engrams, okay? Where memories are stored on the biophysical level, okay? Which you can only regain those memories mentally through mind uploading, okay? We must understand. Let's continue.
In VMAT2 inhibitors. So what's this all about? Let's delve into the fascinating world of neuroscience. VMAT2, or vesicular monoamine transporter 2, is an integral membrane protein. It assists in the regulation of neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers that are crucial for the communication between nerve cells. VMAT2 plays a key role in packing these neurotransmitters into vesicles, tiny bubble-like structures that transport them across the nerve synapse. Now, enter VMAT2 inhibitors. These are substances that have the ability to block the function of VMAT2. And what happens when VMAT2 is blocked? The packaging and release of neurotransmitters are controlled. Think of it like a dam controlling the flow of water. In this case, VMAT2 inhibitors are the dam and neurotransmitters are the water. So VMAT2 inhibitors are like a switch controlling the flow of neurotransmitters in our brain. Now you might be asking, how do these VMAT2 inhibitors work? Well, let's dive right in. You see, VMAT2 inhibitors have a unique way of function. They bind or attach themselves to a protein called vesicular monoamine transporter 2, or VMAT2 for short. This protein has a pretty important job. It's responsible for transporting neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers in our brains, into tiny storage units known as vesicles. These vesicles then release the neurotransmitters into the synapse, the gap between neurons, when the time is right.
You hear that? When the time is right, okay? Until that time comes, there's a dam, okay? All right. And when that time is right, when that signal go off, those transmitters release the ability to be able to incoming signals, okay? That's that water. That's the baptism, okay? That is the baptism. That's the Holy Ghost, all right? We must comprehend what's going on inside ourselves.
Here's where VMAT2 inhibitors come in. By binding to VMAT2, they effectively prevent this transport from happening. If the neurotransmitters can't get into the vesicles, they can't be released into the synapse. This process effectively limits the amount of neurotransmitter available for release. In essence, VMAT2 inhibitors work by limiting the availability of neurotransmitters, creating a balance in our brain. But what's the real-world application of these VMAT2 inhibitors, you ask? Well, let's dive into it. VMAT2 inhibitors are predominantly used in the fascinating world of neurology and psychiatry. They play a crucial role in the treatment of disorders such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and that well-known culprit, Parkinson's disease. These inhibitors work by blocking the action of a protein called VMAT2, helping to control the release of certain neurotransmitters in the brain. This can lead to a reduction in symptoms and improved quality of life for patients. But the applications don't stop there. VMAT2 inhibitors also lend a helping hand in managing symptoms of Huntington's disease and other hyperkinetic movement disorders. This is where they shine, providing relief to those dealing with the often debilitating effects of these conditions. With the help of VMAT2 inhibitors, we're able to better manage and treat a range of neurological and psychiatric conditions.
Okay, so we see they're talking about the VMAT2 gene, which is the God gene, okay? And the God gene is turned on when the time is right to allow the neurotransmitters to be able to convey or transport information, all right, that rise from the process of what we call transduction that comes from the father or the son, or what we call Amun Ra to what we call Horus, okay? Very important that we make the connection, all right? We must make this connection because this is the denotation of the God gene. Okay, the God gene. I'm gonna show you that one more time before I move on with the rest of the lesson. Okay, right, the God gene. They want to talk about it helps Parkinson's disease and all that. That's not what the God gene is for. To help Parkinson's disease, it's to help you leave this plane and get to the next plane. The God gene hypothesis proposes that human spirituality, remember, spirituality, not physicality. You only learn about your spirituality through your physicality, okay? So the God gene hypothesis proposes that human spirituality is influenced by hereditary. So this is hereditary. All right. If you ain't cutting it on, if it's not cutting on, that means that it's not your hereditary right. Okay. And all people don't have it. Is that a specific gene called the vesicular monoamine transporter 2 gene predisposes humans towards spiritual or mystic experiences. Okay. Once again, spiritual and mystic experiences. Now, if you ain't on that right path, on your mystic journey or your spiritual journey, you might go crazy and develop some of them symptoms that they were talking about in the video. Okay, so with that, let's move on to the lesson. Let's go back to the Eye of Ra. Look at that picture one more time so we won't lose focus to today's lesson. The Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Ra and its meaning. We know eye is the English word, okay, when we see our eyes, our physical eyes, right? But then you got Ra, it represents the sun. So that means a conversation going on between the father and the son. Okay, we know the son is the father who gives us information to raise us up to become fathers as well, and give and so on and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so you got Ra, okay, Ra being the symbolic or the astro physical representation of what we're supposed to be understanding with our physical self through the process of a transduction with our eyes. Okay, but not as God, but as Horus, the son of God. Okay, following the pattern laid down by our ancestors. That is the purpose of life. How I know it? Don't believe me? It's right here in back of me. It's right here in back of me. This is how we define it: the Ren, the dragon, the serpent, the flying serpent. Okay, you don't believe me? Let's check it out. The Ren is the national uh, emblem of the kings of Wessex or the Wessex or the Wessex culture. Okay, once again, the Wessex culture. We're not talking about no religious view, no mythical view, and none of that. We're talking about historical meaning of the Ren. Okay, which is told symbolically around the world by different interpretation. This is what's being discussed today. Okay, but you can't look at it with your physical self. Look at it with your spiritual self because that's what the Ren represents. That's what the serpent represents. Seeing your true self. Okay. This is called mental uploading, becoming your immortality, becoming yourself. As you change, the earth changes. It's all changing together, whether we want to or not. Okay? Let's move. The Ren, sometimes spelled Wyvern, is a type of mythical dragon with two legs, two wings, and often on a pointed tail. That's the one you see behind me. All right? The Ren is the various forms is important in hereditary, all right, hereditary rights, frequently appearing as a mascot of schools and athlete teams, chiefly the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada. It is a popular creature in European literature, mythology, and folklore. We ain't talking about none of that, okay? We ain't talking about none of that. It's often used to used in fantasy, literature, and video games. We're not talking about none of that. The Ren is a hereditary and folklore. It's rarely fire breathing, unlike other dragons. Okay, so let's go to the history of it. First of all, before we go into history, let's understand what it really means. That means we have to go to the etymology of the word. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the word is developed in Middle English as Wyvern. If I'm pronouncing wrong, please forgive me. Attested in the 14th century from the Anglo-French Wyvern, from Guerrier and Warrior, which originates from Latin, means viper, which means viper, added, or ass. The conclusion has been added by the beginning of the 17th century when John Guillam in 1610 described it as a wyvern, a creature that partakes of a fowl and their wings and legs, and does resemble a snake and does resemble a serpent in the tail. Okay, once again, a serpent in the tail. So we see that a wren is associated with a serpent. Okay, a flying serpent. We must understand that. Let's go to the history of it. History. The concept of winged snakes, mythical creatures similar to the wren, okay, is common in cultures around the Mediterranean, with notable examples being the Egyptian goddess Wadjet. So one of the most notable examples of the wren, which is one of the symbol of the kings of Wessex, which is their flag, okay, going back to the Wessex culture, going back to the Neolithic times, okay, they clearly says that in the Mediterranean era, the Egyptian goddess was known as Wadjet, okay? And the oldest creature outright referred to as a winged dragon, our Helios chariot steed versus which age Medea. We're not concerned about them because why? We ain't Greek or Roman or none of that. So we go our best connection to understand our connection as Anglo-Saxon Berbers to those in Egyptian, which were Egyptian Berbers, is go to the goddess Wadjet and see what that is. Let's see. Okay. Wadjet, known to the Greeks world as Utu or Butu, among other renderings including Wadjet, Udjet, and Udru, was originally the ancient Egyptian local goddess in the city of Dep or Butu in Lower Egypt, which was an important site in the prehistoric Egypt. Wadjet worship originally started in the pre-dynastic period, but evolved over time from local goddesses to patron goddesses. Okay, very important. We see that they say the Ren and the Wadjet are basically the same. Okay, basically the same. All right. So it says Wajet was closely associated in ancient Egyptian religion with Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus, father and son. Okay. So the Wajet was closely associated in ancient Egypt religion with the Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus symbol, each powerful protective deities. The hieroglyphics for her, the hieroglyphics uh, for her eye, for her eye of Horus. Okay, so she must be a female. Okay. That could be Mother Earth. That would make more even make more sense. Okay, so the Eye of Horus represents Earth if she's a female. Okay, because we know female is where all life originated based upon the process of what we call evolution. Okay, and we know evolution was the result of what we call embryogenesis, and embryogenesis was the cause of autocatalytic, which resulted from what we said at the stage of evolution. All right, from one dimension to two dimension to three dimension. Okay, on a biochemical, biophysical, as well as every other level. All right, before we became human. All right, this involves the eye of Ra. All right, the sun god. All life is sustained by what? Everyone say it, the sun. So while Jet was closely associated in ancient Egypt religion with the Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus symbol, part itself, Jet is symbolic or was related to Eye of Ra and Eye of Horus. So I was actually correct, all right? But we can work it both ways, all right? Because it's both symbolic. So it says the hieroglyphic for her eyes is shown below. Sometimes two are shown in the sky of religious images. There's little consensus on which eye is truly tied to Wajet, as both have some importance to her. The main difference between her eyes are with which sides of the face they are on, left or right. The color of these eyes is amulet and ceramics, and usually created a vibrant blue and green colors, which resembles the goddess name of the green one. The green Wadjet eye amulets found in Egypt daily life provided a token of fertility and protection to those who had them. Okay, so we see that the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus is symbolic of Wadjet, and Wadjet is symbolic of what we call the flying serpent. Okay, from our Egyptian side of the story. Very, very important from our Egyptian side of the story. Okay, now get it from somewhere else. So we see the Wajet is associated with the what we call the Ren. So that means that we have uh, Africa, all right, the Wajet. We have Ren. That's going back into Britain. All right. So the only thing now we got to satisfy is what we call either the Iberian Peninsula, all right, and North America. Those are the only two we got to qualify now in regards to the serpent, okay, or the flying serpent. That's a reputation in all nations and countries, where really should be representing all countries and nations, but by the same people and by no other. Okay, very important. So we just did North Africa. All right, Eye of Horus and Eye of Ra. All right, we did the Ren. Okay, they said they were had some type of connection associated with the flying serpent. So let's make our connection here. All right, with the flying serpent, and then work our way to the Iberian Peninsula. That makes sense to everybody? All right, let's do it. If everybody understand what I'm going with it so far, please give me a thumbs up in the chat line. Okay? Please give me a thumbs up in the chat line if you understand where I'm going with it thus far. Okay? Let's see. All right, let's get it. So since we got on the topic I, okay, let's go back to where we was. Since we're talking about the eyes, okay, let's stay on the eyes. Okay, we know eyes help us to translate information that's incoming, which is the information that you're getting from me is incoming. So let's stay on the eyes, okay? We know that the eyes we see in Egyptian known as Amun Ra or Eye of Ra or Eye of Horus is in what we call Anglo-Saxon times, what we call the Ren, okay? The Ren, we know that the language of the Anglo-Saxon Berbers was English, okay? And we can say that hell, the Berber language was the language of the English, all right? It's uniform, okay? So in order for us to understand Ra, and Horus, okay, which are spelled in English, we have to understand I, okay, which is also spelled in English, because these are English words. These are not Egyptian words. These are not Coptic words, but they are English words, okay? And we understand when we read Ra and Horus, that's symbolic of what we call the Son and, as we said, and the Father, okay? And we all represent life, energy, protection, food, what we call fertility, because in symbolic of Wadjet, all right? Hell, or for all we know, the dragon could be a female, okay? The rib could be a female, all right? But the point is that we want to understand based upon what we've physically seen here is to understand eyes, okay? Eyes. We know that when we deal with the word eyes in physiology, they call it something else, okay? So eye is a name. Person, place, or things. Names are given to what? Persons, places, and things. Okay? Persons, places, and things. So let's define the word I. We already did it based upon Wikipedia. Let's go to the family crest and coat of arms of the word eyes. Okay? And look at it. Okay? Because we know that it has associated, we understand that everything dealing with the flying serpent, the rim, the wadjet has to us deal with what we call hereditary or hereditary. Okay, so it only makes sense for us to define the word eyes. Okay, in hereditary sense, that way we can get the right interpretation of the information that's coming from our ancestors who are now no longer here on the physical plane. Okay, we must understand what's going on. The word I spelled E-Y-E-S because you got two. That's the Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus. Family crest and coat of arms. Okay? Very. That's how they spelled it. So we must go here. The origin of the Anglo-Saxon name Eyes come from its first bearer, who was a person who was well known as an heir to a title of a fortune or estate. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? The origin of the Anglo-Saxon name Eyes come from its first bearer, not the second, not the third, not the fourth, not the fifth, and on down. This is the first bearer, who was a person who was well known as an heir to the title, fortune, or estate. The name is thought to derive from Old French heir, which is itself derived from the Latin heres, which means heir. They want to hear that. I didn't make that up. I didn't make that up. Two other sources allude to the Norman influence of the name Erie, is a place name in Normandy. And the name is from the heir William and Wermac Harris occurs in Normandy in 1198. That is where the word eyes come from. We're not concerned about Ireland because we're not from Ireland. Our only concern is England. In England, it says that the name originated in Normandy and it's spelled as eyes. Not one eye, but two eyes because the eyes is not singular, it's plural. Okay, so that's the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus. Okay, the flying serpent, or what we call it in our Hawaii, Wadjet. Okay, let's get it. Let's look at another spelling. They say Erie. Let's look at that spelling. Erie. Erie. The name Erie comes from the Anglo-Saxon, again, culture of Britain. It was a name for a person who was well known as an heir to a title or fortune of a state. The name is thought to be derived from the old French word heir, which is derived from the Latin heres, which means heir. Two other sources say it comes from what? Norman. So you have the word eyes and iris, which all originated from what? England. Okay? England. Okay? Now, what's very, very important, okay, is the origin of the word I in Erie. Its surname, Erie, was first found in what? Derbyshire. Okay? Derbyshire, where the ancestral home of the main branch of the Erie family is thought to be located. Okay? So where the Erie was to be located is what? Derbyshire. Okay? Early written records of the name Erie has been found in many counties, notably Derbyshire, Wiltshire, and Shropshire. Okay, so we just defined the origin of the surname Aries and Eyes. Okay, Aries and Eyes. Okay, they all are associated with English Anglo-Saxon origin, and the origin of what the name was first found was in Derbyshire, and it all had to do with heirs. Okay, heirs. You can take that abstract or you can take that concrete. Okay. Now, why is that important? Because it said Derbyshire. Okay. We understand that the um, Wadjet and the wren behind me is symbolic of the flying serpent. Okay, and we understand that if the wren and the Wadjet is symbolic of viper or a serpent, and we see Wadjet has wings, so it must have been the flying serpent, which represents or associated with the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus, then that makes only sense to make the connection with Spanish and what's their depiction of the Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus, symbolic of the flying serpent, which is represented in not just in Egypt, but as well as English history as the wren and the flying serpent known as the Wadjet. Okay, everybody understand that? Please give me a thumbs up in the chat before we make the connection to the flying serpent and here in what we call North America, and make the connection to what we call that, what we call the Iberian Peninsula called Spain. Come on, somebody, let me know they understand what's going on. Talk to me. All right. Once again, we already made the connection with the Wren and the Wadjet, which is associated with England or Anglo-Saxon or Britain. We also made the connection with the Wadjet, which is symbolic of those who were in what we call Egypt. Okay, when we know Egypt, we're not talking about Egypt in the sense of how it's spelled, but we know Egypt was a territory composed by the ancient Libyan Berbers, okay? They were Libyan Berbers. They weren't Coptic Greek Egyptians. Very important for you to understand that. All right. So now let's go ahead before we go make the connection between the Ren and the Wadjet here in what we call North America and what we call the Iberian Peninsula known as Spain. Let's get a back history of who we are as being those same descendants and the same heirs that descended down from those that we just recently just was talking about, who were were the ancestors from time immemorial, as well as time immemorial here on the physical plane, here on the spiritual plane. Because when they transcended to the astral world, they left monuments and burial mounds in which they used as a place of worship, a place of honor, as well as a place of transition. Okay, all right. This is one thing they have in common. All right. So with that, we have to make our connection with this as well. Over here, as well as Spain, we just did it with England, as well as with Africa. All right. So let's get it. We already know that the word Negro is a name originated from what? Everybody said Spain. The word Negro comes from Spain. Okay. And the surname first originated in Castile. Okay. In north central Spain. North central Spain. Okay. And we know Spain was responsible for what? The Spanish Empire. Once again, the Spanish Empire. Okay. The Spanish Empire goes back to the kings of Castile. Okay. The Spanish Empire goes back to the kings of Castile. Okay. We get into the colonization or the conquest of the Roman Catholic Spanish monarchy in North America. It takes to a time what we call 1491 and 1492. Well, we're going back to the Spanish Empire before that. Okay. The Spanish Empire before that. Okay. Here in what we call North America, as you see lit up in the map. Spanish Empire during the second half of the 18th century. Okay. All right. So we're going to go back before that. How do we go back before that? We have to understand the Spanish Empire and the kings who ruled the Spanish Empire before we got to Queen Elizabeth and King Bernadette, who were Roman Catholics. Okay. And the only way that was influenced happened as a result of Roman Catholic influence on the island of Spain. Okay. Spain was inhabited under what we call Roman Catholicism. Okay. Very, very, very important. We talked about that in my last lesson. If I have time to do it today, I'll touch on it. Okay. But let's go to the Kingdom of Castile. Spanish Empire, and it was ruled under the Kingdom of Castile. And we know we talked about Pelagius of Austria, which was one of the first Hispano-Visigoth kings to defend the Iberian Peninsula through what we call the Reconquistador. Okay. Very, very, very important. If Negro is a word that comes from Castile and is in north central Spain, that means that everyone who was in Spain and everyone who's part of the kingdom of Castile was Negroes. Okay? Was Negroes. We can all come to that conclusion. The Kingdom of Castile was the polity of the Iberian Peninsula during the Middle Ages and it traced its origin to the 9th century county of Castile. During the 10th century, the Castilian counts increased their autonomy, but it was not until 1065 that it was separated from the Kingdom of Leon and became a kingdom of its own right. So we back in the 11th century, and we know that the Roman Catholic Spain influence was in the 15th century. All right. So we take our cue from the 11th century, and that's how we're going to do it. All right. We already understand that. Ain't got time. We understand that this coat of arms is a castle, El Castillo, and their royal standard is a castle, Royal Castillo. Now, what's crazy about that, when we bring it over here to what we call North America, it brings us to what we call, where is it? El Castillo Chichen Itza. Brings us here, a Ziggurat step pyramid. Over here in what we call the Yucatan. El Castillo means the castle. Very, very, very important. Because we're still talking about the Ren, we're still talking about the Wadjet, which are flying serpents, okay? flying serpents. Very, very important. We already connect one to Great Britain. We already connect one to Africa. All right, and we connected one to now North America and Spain. All right, North America and Spain, and we're gonna show one thing that they all had in common: limestone. Okay, what else? Pyramid beams, building. What else? Mound building. What else? Castles. They just tore the castles down over here. They still got some here, though. Okay, but they tore down the castles here. But the origin of castle building was in their spirit. Okay, over here in Mesoamerica, there's a step pyramid called El Castillo, meaning the castle, also known as the Temple of Kukulkan. Anybody ever heard of that? The Temple of Kukulkan. We know what temples are for, right? They're for worship, where you bury the dead. And we know step pyramids are also paramount in what we call Egypt. Okay? Very, 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 very important. Built by the pre-Columbian Maya civilization sometime between 8th to the 12th century AD, the building served as a temple to the deity Kukulkan, a Yucatec Mayan feather serpent deity closely related to Quetzalcoatl, a deity known to the Aztecs and other Central Mexican cultures of the post-classic period. All right? Very, very, very important. So we see that Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, and there's another one. There's another one. Where is it? All right, we'll get to it. Well, so El Castillo, the castle. All right, they named the step pyramid the castle in Mesoamerica. All right, and the material made of that castle, i.e., step pyramid in Mesoamerica, is made of what? Limestone. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Pyramids are castles. Okay. Some are tombs because some are used for burial. Okay. Let's get it. El Castillo Chichen Itza was a step pyramid in worship of what they call the feather serpent deity. Okay, the feather serpent deity. We know that this was built by the what they said the Mayans. No, pardon. So it was built pre-Columbian Mayans. So it was before the Columbians. It was before the Mayans because we know the Columbian era was in 1492 through the Spanish conquest of North America when they conquered the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Incas. But guess what? They never conquered the Olmecs, and the origin of the flying serpent deity originated what they call the Olmecs. And it's the same as the deity in what they call Egypt, called the Wadjet, and the same as the deity in Great Britain, or the king, or what we call Albion, or what we call whatever name they got. We know that is associated with the Anglo-Saxons, the kings of Wessex, which we know was unified by Alfred the Great. Okay, because when you go to the flag of Wessex, you got to go to the kingdom of Wessex, and we go here, which was unified by Alfred the Great. The Kingdom of Wessex Saxon, also known as the Kingdom of Wessex, was the Anglo-Saxon kingdom in the south of Great Britain from around 519 until Alfred the Great declared himself as king of the Anglo-Saxon in 886. Okay, we're still talking about the Ren. We're still talking about the Wadjet. We're still talking about the Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus, Father and Son, uh, um, uh, God and Jesus. Okay, the same story we're talking about. Okay, and our ancestors, our Father, our God is watching us not physically, but on the level that's on the what we call the chemical or molecular level. Okay, they are watching us. Okay, based upon that God gene or that BMAT2 gene, and if it don't go off, you're in a world of trouble. Okay. So the kingdom of Wessex, also known as the kingdom of Wessex, was an Anglo-Saxon kingdom unified by Alfred the Great, and these tribes were called what? Barbarian tribes. Okay, they were called barbarian tribes. Let's look at it. Barbarian tribes. The barbarian kingdom were stated found by various non-Roman, primarily Germanic people in Western Europe and North Africa. Following the collapse of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century, the barbarian kingdom were the principal government in Western Europe in the early Middle Ages. The time of barbarian kingdom is considered to have come to an end at the time of Charlemagne in 800 A.D. Okay, though a handful of small Anglo-Saxon kingdoms persisted until being unified by who? Alfred the Great. Okay, Alfred the Great, the king of Wessex, where all those worship the wren or use the wren symbolic of honoring the information that was passed down from the past. Okay, that's called engrams. Okay, memory stored in the DNA. Okay, that goes off at a certain time, and the time is now, brothers and sisters. The time is now. How I know it? Let's go back to where were we at? uh, the castle, El Castillo. Now they gave it a Spanish name. Go figure. They gave it a Spanish name. Let's see where we at. Second, let me close this. There we go. El Castillo. Now they gave the step pyramid a Spanish name, El Castillo, the castle. Okay, that's very important. They gave it a Spanish name. All right, and it's a step pyramid. Okay, made of limestone. Okay, a step pyramid made of limestone. Okay, now this is a unified uh, 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 custom of our ancestors building step pyramids. Okay, this is just something that they always done, something that they carried wherever they went to. Let's look at it real quick. Let's look at it real quick. Step pyramids. Step pyramid or step pyramid is an architectural structure that uses flat platforms or steps receding from the ground and up, i.e. pyramid. Step pyramids, typically large, are made of several layers of stone, are found in several cultures throughout history, in several locations throughout the world, with no known connection between the different civilizations that built them. That's a lie. The independent adoption of the similar design presumably emerges as least partly because step pyramids have a lower center of mass than would a structure with straight vertical sides and are thus inherently more stable. Okay, these are some of the examples of the step pyramids. Everyone look at it. Mexico. All right, that's not the one we're talking about. We're talking about El Castillo, the castle. This is not El Castillo. The Zuggurats, Pyramid of Dozer, Nasu Pyramid, the three New Suez pyramids. Just look at it, brothers and sisters. El Castillo, the one we're talking about. Monk mounds, okay? Tumulus, circles, Stonehenge. All this comes from our ancestors that was spread around the world. All right, around the world. And what color you find them? Of darker hue. You notice the Olmecs look like the Mexicans. We know the Mexicans and the Olmecs look like the Chinese. Okay? You find all the facial characteristics in all Mac culture. Okay? In all Mac culture. And all Mac culture was in Veracruz. Okay? Let's go back to the step pyramid. Okay? Since we know that they're they're all over the world. Apparently, the custom and tradition was carried on. Okay, and I'm pretty much if they built the same structures all around the world, then what it is that they worship or as a religious or customary practice was used all around the world. As we see that the Wadjet, the Ren, and now we're going to see here in North America also a representation of what we call the feathered serpent deity or the flying serpent, okay? Which did not originate with Mexico, okay? We know Mexico got its empire by the Treaty of Cordoba. That was prior to that, it was under the Spanish Empire. And once again, don't forget the word Negro comes from Spain, and it was originally found in Castile. And this step pyramid is called El Castillo. Okay, come on, make it make sense, brothers and sisters. Make it make sense. All right, let's make it make sense. So it says that this temple was also a temple that was constructed based upon the temple of Kukulkan El Castillo, like other Mesopotamian American temples, Mesoamerican temples, likely reflected the common practice by the Mayans of executing several phases of the construction for their temples. The last construction probably took place about 900 to 1000 AD, while the substructure may have been constructed earlier between 600 and 800 AD. Based on the archaeological research, construction of the temple of the Kukulkan was based on the concept of the axis mundi. Did you hear that? The axis mundi. And then if this was the custom that was around the world based upon the axis mundi, then they must have been the same people. Because what is the axis mundi? Let's define that. Axis mundi. And astronomy. Axis mundi is Latin term for the axis of the Earth between the celestial poles. And a geocentric coordinate system, this is the axis of rotation of the celestial sphere. Consequently, in ancient Greco-Roman astronomy, the axis mundi is the axis of rotation of the planetary spheres with the classical geocentric model of the cosmos, the center of the universe. You are standing in the center of the universe. You are standing at the medium. You are standing in the crossroad. Okay? All right, for the polar shift, all right, a shift to the fourth dimension from the third dimension, okay? The 20th century comparative mythology, the term axis mundi, also called the cosmic axis, world pillar, or the center of the world, or the world tree, has been greatly extended to refer to a mythological concept representation of the connection between, everyone said, heaven and earth, or the higher or lower realms. You hear that? Of heaven and earth. Here in Mexico, right here in Mexico. Come on now, you can't get no better than that. All right, you can't get no better than that, and we know that why? Because they all had the same worship. What worship was that? The feathered serpent, okay, or the flying serpent, okay, which was called Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl or Brim or Wadjet, okay, which is nothing more than father and communicating to the son through the process of what we call transduction. And transduction is to be able to interpret the incoming signals on the biochemical and biophysical level. If everyone understand that, please give me a thumbs up in the chat because that's all about awakening the VMAT2 gene or the God gene, which concerns nuclear DNA, which gives light to what we call um, RNA and what we call RNA and DNA. Okay, RNA and DNA. All right. So while I'm looking for the thumbs up in the chat, let's look at the flying serpent. Okay. The origin of flying serpent, since it's worshipped all around the world, and it was also worshipped by the Aztec, Mayans, and the Incas. All right. These temples and step pyramids at that, and these step pyramids have one thing they in common. They were made of limestone. Okay. They were made of limestone. Let's look at the flying serpent. Feather serpent. All right. Feather serpent. The feather serpent is a prominent supernatural entity or deity found in many Mesoamerican religions, the same as is found in African religions, i.e., the Egyptian religion, i.e., the Anglo-Saxon Berber religion, okay, the English religion, all right. Now we're associated with the religion that's here in North America that was prior to the Aztecs, Mayans, and the Incas, all right. It was inhabited by what we call the Olmecs, who were in fact the Spanish people here, okay. They were the Spanish Negro brothers and sisters, okay, all right, who were here through time immemorial, all right. How we know that? Just look at it. The earliest representation of feather serpents appears in the Olmec culture 1400 to 400 BC. The Olmec culture predates the Mayans and Aztecs. So if the Olmec culture predates the Mayan, Aztecs, and the Incas, which was actually conquered by the Spanish colonization in 1491, then that means that the original Spanish people were the Olmecs, brothers and sisters. All right, where the Olmecs and the Olmecs worship the flying serpent, all right, like everybody else worship the flying serpent, symbolic of the Kundalini energy raising up within yourself as awakening of the DNA based upon the God gene, based upon the VMAT2 gene, okay? The VMAT2 gene is that light switch coming on, okay? Activated, okay? Now you're being you was on autopilot. Now you're being put on autopilot now. Okay, where the mothership has got you connected based upon the mental uploading. Okay, planes is falling out of the sky. Some messing with the digital equipment. Okay, something's going on. All right, but we're talking about how our guidance systems work. Okay, all right, how we must dock on main with the mothership. Okay, and that's what's happening now by that light switch being turned on by what our understanding about the flying serpent, which is nothing more than the communication between our fathers, our mothers, and us, their children. Okay, the star children must understand that. So the flying serpent, if you want to talk about a flying serpent, originated with the Almacs, right? It originated with the Almacs. That's very, very, very important. That's very, very, very important. Now we understand there were step pyramids, all right, that it was made at uh we know that the El Castillo or the castle was made out of limestone, and it was a step pyramid, and we see the culture worldwide, okay? Very important. But one thing about it, about the El Castillo, okay? One thing about it is that it was built in what? Limestone. Limestone. Something about that limestone caught my eye. Let me go back here. Where was I at? Limestone. All right, you see it? Mesoamerican step pyramid material made out of it. Limestone. Okay? Limestone. Now, when we look at pyramids around the world, as well as, I mean, yeah, pyramids around the world, uh, uh, they are built in limestone, not just pyramids, but castles as well. Okay? Castles as well. Let's look at some castles made out of limestone, brothers and sisters. El Castillo, Zugarats. They cut down or broke down or demolished all the castles and start building ziggurats or step pyramids in lieu of the killing and the slaughtering of our ancestors. Here we had the same culture, all right, in regards to building limestone, because you see those same structures here in what we call Mexico, and those structures are built in limestone, okay? Limestone. Now look at these castles. Limestone castles. Here's one in Kansas, built in limestone. Look how beautiful that is. Poland. Let me go back here. Scroll down. I ain't got time to go through all of them. Just look at them. Limestone. This is what they use to build castles and step pyramids. All right. This is what they used to build step pyramids and castles. All right. This is what our ancestors used all over the world. Okay. All over the world. Let's look at some pictures of Almacs while we at it. Okay. Who all worship the flying serpent or the winged serpent. Okay. Because the flying serpent was predates the Aztecs, Mayans, and the Incas. Okay. And we understand that the worship of the flying serpent was worshipped in Africa, known as Wadjet, Eye of Horus, and the Eye of Ra, as well as in the Ren. Okay. Now we associated the flying serpent with the Almacs. Okay. We associated with the Almacs, and we know that the Almacs must have been Spanish because the damn castle is named El Castillo. Okay. It's named El Castillo, and El Castillo is symbolic of those who were in the Spanish Empire, okay, before Mexican Empire got their independence from the Spanish Empire, which goes back to those kings of Castile. All right, let's look at some more pictures. Look at these heads. Negroids. Excluding several of them that don't need to be here, but y'all get the picture. What the hell they got on helmets for? Unless they coming from space, right? Why they got helmets on? What's the purpose of helmets? Was they were playing the game to protect themselves from being hurt? I don't think so. Okay, these gigantic monumental skulls have helmets on. What is the purpose of the helmets? Okay, for war? Was it for war? It was a war apparently. If they lived, if they were indigenous. What were they warring against themselves? All right, so it's very important, and I don't see none of them just with just ball heads. Not one. Every single one has a helmet on. So what does the helmets represent? Could somebody tell me? Does that make sense to anybody? Please, somebody tell me. All right. So now we know that the word Jew are the Sephardic Jews, all right? And the Sephardic Jews are the ones who are originated on the Iberian Peninsula because the word Sephardic means Iberian. So the Iberian Jews were the ones who originated on the Iberian Peninsula, but the name Jew originated in what they say England and what they call Chooks Normandy. Chooks Normandy, okay? That's where the word Jew originated from. Chooks Normandy. So let's go there. Chooks Normandy. Why? Because where it says, I think I see King. Yeah. Chooks or Carnet is called King Normandy. It's called King Normandy. Okay. This is the place where William the Conqueror went to. Okay. And William the Conqueror had castles built in Chooks. Okay. Very, very important for you to understand that. All right. Let's prove it. Cain. 2 to 4 tons. I believe it. Cane stones. Okay. Now the word Jew, originated in King of Normandy. Okay. King of Normandy. Okay. Now we're talking about limestone. Okay. We're talking about limestone. Before we go ahead, let me see if I got it up here. The step pyramid was built in limestone. Didn't they say that? It was built in limestone. Let's go here. It says a light creamy yellow Jurassic limestone coral in northwestern France near the city of Caen. The limestone is fine grained aldylic limestone formed to shallow water lagoons and Bethanian age about 167 million years ago. The stone is homogeneous and therefore suitable for carving. As you can see, construction being done on the church with limestone. Okay, you see it with limestone. Everybody hold that thought. Okay. With limestone. We know the step pyramids was built where? Built with what? Limestone. Okay. The step pyramid in El Castillo was built in limestone, and the name of the step pyramid was called El Castillo, which means the castle, and it was a temple worshiping the flying serpent. Okay, the flying serpent that's worshipped in England as the Ren and North Africa as Wadjet, which represents the eye of Horus and the eye of Ra. Okay, it's very, 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 very important that we make the connection of why these temples were built. Okay, they were in lieu of worshiping the ancestors who went on to the afterlife. Okay, they went on to the afterlife. That's why limestone was very, very important. Okay, limestone was very, very, very important. And if we go to the word Jew, Erie, all right, the eyes. Okay, we're talking about the eyes, right? Eye of Ra, eye of Horus. Once again, the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus. This is what it's all about. Being able to make sense of what it is that you're visually seeing here today. Okay? You're making sense of what you actually see here today with your eyes, okay? As heirs, because if you don't see it with your external, how you gonna see it with your internal, okay? It's all about translating the information through transduction about who you are here and where you come from, okay? And that determines if you are, in fact, an heir. That's why when you look at the word eyes, it's origins in England, and it means heir, or heirs, okay? And the name and origin where it's found is what? In Normandy. Now, limestone was found in what? Uh, King of Normandy, okay, associated with William the Conqueror, okay? We must understand the connection here. The word eyes and the word Eries are names that originated from what? Normandy, okay? We just did eyes, we're going back to Erie. and it has everything to do with an heir. And it said the name or the surname Ives or Erie originated from where? Derbyshire. Everyone see that? The surname Erie was first found in Derbyshire. So these are our ancestors, the heirs, okay? And Derbyshire, okay, is very, very, very important because Derbyshire, all right, it's a place, if you know the history of it, has the same significance that it did in ancient Olmec Mesoamerican culture in regards to the purpose of building the step pyramids, building the mounds, which were worshiping the ancestors, and named by what we call the flying serpent or the Wadjet or the Wren. Okay. All this is about make the connection to our ancestors. Okay. This is why they built these large structures. Okay. I'm not even talking about the pyramid. I'm talking about the other structures in Stonehenge, Mesoamerica, all right, and I'm pretty sure there's some in Spain as well. Okay, so it says the surname Erie was first found in Derbyshire, where the ancestor home of the main branch of the Erie family is thought to have located. So that means that the main branch of our family as heirs originated in Derbyshire. Okay, so what is Derbyshire? Anybody ever heard of Derbyshire? Let's look at Derbyshire because Derbyshire, as they said, was the name of where the eyes come from. We know eyes is symbolic of our ability to be able to interpret the information that we receive with the eyes, all right? But we know that name itself is a noble name, okay? And it originated in Derbyshire. And the reason why they had that name, because the name denotes to what they call a status. Well said, Brother McGraw. Brother McGraw said, in metaphysics, limestone assists with enhanced healing and purification, reminds us of innocence, grounds, centers, and promotes positive thought. That's the God gene awakening in you. That's the God gene awakening in you, all right? Because you are the temple, okay? Let's read it. Derbyshire, history of Derbyshire. That's what I'm focused on. The history of Derbyshire. The area that is now Derbyshire was first visited probably briefly by humans 200,000 years ago during the Abbey interglacial, as shown by the Middle Paleolithic Echelon had axe found near Hapton. Further occupation came with the Upper Paleolithic and Neolithic period of the Stone Age when Neolithic hunters gathered roamed the hilly tundra. Evidence of these nomadic tribes have been found in limestone caves located on the Nottinghamshire border. Deposits left in the caves date to the occupancy of around 12,700 BCE. The purpose of a cave is for what? Burial. Okay? The purpose of a cave is for burial. Where it's underground, on top of the ground, the purpose is for what? Burial. Okay? So the Zuggurat temple or the step temple that was built in Mexico, known as El Castillo, uh, associated with the serpent god, all right, was used as a representation and an honoring of burial of ancestors. Okay, we must understand that. So Derbyshire is known for what? Limestone. So let's look at what we call the history of Derbyshire. Okay, all right, here we go. History of Derbyshire. The history of Derbyshire can be traced back human settlement since the last ice age of 10,000 years ago. The county of Derbyshire in England dates back to the 11th century. Okay? The 11th century. Everyone pay attention. Derbyshire is first mentioned in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles in 1048 in manuscript D, known as the Northern Recension. Its creative appears to be a result of a dismemberment of the Mercian Kingdom, province of Peak District, and Chronicles says under 1048. All right, let's move down a little further. Some old sources wrongly refer to the charter from 926 for land at Hope and Ashford as being in Derbyshire. But the original of the charter does not say Derbyshire. It just say Hope and Ashford. On the other hand, The later and final appearance of the Mercian Kingdom province of Peak District occurs in the charter of everyone said King Edgar the Peaceful. You hear that? King Edgar the Peaceful, our Jesus Christ, which I'm the reincarnation of. In 963, where land and Belladon near Worksworth is being granted. This charter refers to the land as being a page protect not on Derbyshire. If you, however you pronounce that wrong, please word forgive me. Okay, let's see what else. So they mentioned King Edgar the Peaceful is associated with Derbyshire, and in Derbyshire is associated with what we call um, limestone. Okay, it's associated with limestone. Very, very, very important for us to understand that. Why is that? Let's look at some of the history dealing with Derbyshire. Saxon. In Anglo-Saxon times, Derbyshire was in the kingdom of Mercia, and Saxon kings had a residence by the river Trent of Repton, where King Wilclaf of Mercia and King Athelbald of Mercia are both buried. During the reign of King Ethelred and the Unready, the son of who? King Edgar the Peaceful, which is Jesus Christ, all right, and King Alfred the Great, there were numerous battles between the Saxons and the Danes in Derbyshire. The Vikings occupied that town of Derby for many years. So we see that the territory known as Derbyshire was known for limestone, where all the castles, all the temples were built. And we know that the Wren, the Wadjet, as well as the flying serpent, all had their reputation in regards to the god Ra or the god Horus is nothing more than an interpretation of a physical or spiritual entity speaking back to you on a molecular level. Okay, on a molecular level through the process of what we call transduction. Okay, transduction. We must understand that. All right, let's see. One more thing I want to mention. Erie. Eyes. Whether you're saying I or our eyes or eyes, however you say it, all right? There's something that we need to take a look at about this, all right? Let's see. Right here. In the early legends of the Erie family, it was recounted that a knight named Erie was fought with Richard of Lionheart at the Battle of Ascalon during the Crusades, lost during the crusade and lost a leg while defending his king, which is why the family still bears a bootleg in its crest. Did you hear that? Once again, I repeat, in the early legends of the Erie family, it was recounted that the knight named Erie, who fought with Richard of Lionheart at the Battle of Ascalon during the Crusades, lost a leg while defending his king, which is why the family still bears a bootleg in its family crest. Another source mentions that the traditional origin of the name was in the circumstances of a Norman knight having at the Battle of Hastings secured help Duke of William of Normandy and giving him air when he was in danger of suffocation. Okay, so William the Conqueror was damn near running out of air, and somebody had to resuscitate him. Okay, we must understand how important this is in regards to us as being heirs, going all the way back to Derbyshire. Okay, going all the way back to Derbyshire, and our ancestors going back all the way to Derbyshire was fighting all the way back from the Ice Age all the way up to the damn time of the Crusades. Okay, all up to the time of the Crusades. What it said, the Battle of Ascalon. Let's look at that in closing. The siege of Ascalon. The siege of Ascalon took place from the 25th of January 22nd of August 1153 and a time period of the 2nd and 3rd crusade and resulted in the capture of Fatimid Egyptian fortresses by the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Ascalon was an important castle that was used by the Fatimids to launch raids into the Crusaders' kingdom's territories, and by 1153 it was the last coastal city in Palestine that was not controlled by the Crusaders. Okay, let's move down a little further. Now we know Godfrey the fifth, Count of Anjou, son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem, okay, was the king of Jerusalem, okay? Godfrey the fifth, Count of Anjou, son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem, where my family name descended down from, was the king of Jerusalem, okay? And we are connected to the kings of Jerusalem, all right? And they're connected to the kings of England, and they're connected to the kings of Spain, okay? We are all the same. Why? Because we are Negro, okay? And Negro, i.e. black, is a result of what's called melanin, okay? And melanin is an organic compound, okay? An organic compound that works based upon molecules, which is based upon atoms, okay? Atoms, okay? So as a result of the atoms, you became atom, okay? From a non-living to living, okay? We must understand that. Background. Right here. However, Jerusalem itself was soon divided by civil war. Baldwin II was the legal heir to the kingdom, but his mother, Queen Melisde, had been ruling as regent. In April 1152, Baldwin wanted to be crowned as king, but his mother insisted on being crowned again with him so that her continued authority was recognized. Instead of allowing this, Baldwin went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and forced the Patriarch of Jerusalem to only give the crown to him. So this is all involving not just the Holy Sepulchre, but Jerusalem. Okay, it involved Melisde, and Melisde is the daughter of who? Folk the Fifth. Once again, Folk the Fifth. So this is not no biblical story. This is not no myth. This is all historical proof of the same family throughout time immemorial in areas that our ancestors constantly fought for against invasion by foreigners. Okay, we must understand that. Melisde, Queen of England. You hear that? Parts of Queen of Jerusalem. Right? Queen of Jerusalem. Melisde was the eldest daughter of King Baldwin II and Queen Morphia. Parts of. She was the daughter of, Melisde was the eldest daughter of King Baldwin and Queen Morphia. In the late 1120, when it became clear that her father would likely not have a son, she was declared heir presumptive to the throne and married, she married Folk of Anjou. Okay, so it wasn't a daughter; she was the daughter of Baldwin II, but she married Folk of Anjou. Okay, Baldwin II died on the 25th of August, 1131, having conferred the kingdom to Melisde. Folk of their son Baldwin III. Melisde and Folk were crowned on the 14th of December. If you watch the movie The Kingdom of Heaven, they're talking about me because when Godfrey of Ebelin went to France to get his son Godfrey of Ebelin, who was a blacksmith, and blacksmiths works with tools. Okay, heating tools. When I was used to work at Robert Johnson, my occupation was instrumentation. I used to put instrument using procedures in autoclaves at a certain amount of degrees of heat. Okay, so that modern or middle age um, profession I now have in the modern day. Okay, and that's symbolic of a lost heir or descendant being brought back home to Jerusalem, and that happens to be me because Melisde was the daughter of Baldwin II, Queen of Morphia, and she was married to who? Folk of Anjou. And at Folk of Anjou, Jerusalem came to its height. We're going to close out on Folk. Folk. Also known as Folk the Younger, was king of Jerusalem with his wife Melisde from 1131 until his death in 1143. Previously, he was Count of Anjou. As Folk the Fifth from 1109 to 1129. During Folk's reign, the kingdom of Jerusalem reached its largest territorial extent. Did y'all hear that? Reached its largest territorial extent. When he went to rule Jerusalem, France was left to his son, Godfrey, the fifth Count of Anjou. Okay? Godfrey, the fifth Count of Anjou. Right there. Godfrey, the fifth Count of Anjou, by heritage from 1129, Duke of Normandy by his marriage claim and conquest from 1144. Godfrey married Empress Matilda, daughter of Henry I, King of England and Duke of Normandy. Godfrey and Matilda married led through their son Henry II to the 300-year long reign of the Plantagenet dynasty. Okay, the Plantagenet dynasty. All right, the Plantagenet dynasty went in conflict when it came against what they call the Capetine dynasty, which what you call the 100-Year War. Okay, the 100-Year War. I'm gonna show you this right here. Let me see. Just pull that up. 100-Year War. Now I'm gonna show you that we are connected to the Spanish houses. Okay, the Spanish Empire, the Kingdom of Castile. Those Negroes, we are all family, brothers and sisters. Okay, we are all family. How do we know that? How do we know this? Let's read this in closing. Okay. Listen very, very close before we close out. Look at the belligerents. Kingdom of France, loyal to the House of Berlioz. Kingdom of England, loyal to the Kingdom of France and loyal to the House of Plantagenet. Everybody see that? Do everybody see that? Okay. Burgundian states, Duchess of Brittany, Crown of Castile, Kingdom of Scotland, Welsh rebels, Crown Aragon, Burgundian states, Duchess of Brittany, Kingdom of Portugal, Kingdom of Navarre, and Duchess of Gascony. But look at the time, though. This all results in what we call the 100-Year War, where Roman Catholics, okay? Roman Catholics. Let's prove it. The term 100-Year War was adopted by later historians in historiographical periodization to encompass dynastically related conflicts constructed in longest military conflict in European history. The war is commonly divided into three phases separate by truces. The Edwardian War with Edward I and his descendants, all right? Edward I, Edward II, Edward III, John Gaunt, and so on to what we call the House of Tudors, to the House of Stuarts, to the House of and from the House of Tudors to the House of Stuarts to what we have now. Okay, so that originated from the English Edwardian War. Then it went to the Caroline War. All right. Then it came the Lancaster War. Okay, the Yorks and the Lancasters. Each side drew many allies into conflict, with English forces initially prevailing. However, the French forces under the House of Berlioz ultimately retained control over the Kingdom of France. The French and English monarchs thereafter remained separate despite the monarchs of England. Later, Britain styled themselves as the sovereign of France in 1802. In 1802, the root cause of the conflict can be traced to the crisis in the 14th century. The outbreak of war was motivated by the gradual rise in tension between the kings of France and England over territory. The official pretext was the interruption of the direct line of the Capetine dynasty. You hear that? The Capetine dynasty. Tension between the French and English crown has gone back centuries to the origin of the English royal family, which was French, Norman, and later Angevin in origins through William the Conqueror. The Norman dukes who became king of England in 1066, English monarchs had therefore historically held titles to land within France. Okay, and France is on the territory associated as along with Spain, France, Aquitaine, Gaul, all these territories are on that particular landmass that were part of our kingdom. Okay, very, very, very important. Okay, so we know that they were all kin to who? The Spanish Empire. Okay, the Spanish Empire. Let's get to the Spanish Empire before I close out. Where did it go? Don't have it up here. All right, let me just pull it up one more time. Spanish Empire. Spanish Empire in closing. As you can see in the box. All right. As you see in the box, Transmemora is the Roman Catholics, Habsburgs, also Roman Catholics. All right. And then the Capetan dynasty. The Capetan dynasty is getting to what they call the Capitan Plantagenet War, which led to what we call the War of the Roses. Okay. The War of the Roses. Let's pull that up before we close out. The War of the Roses. War of the Roses. So you're seeing all this with the eyes of the soul. Okay. This is the light switch that has awoken within you. Okay. And all this is being recorded. Okay. It's being recorded, whether you know it or not. Water Rose is known as a time in the following centuries as the Civil Wars, where a series of wars fought over control of what? The English throne, the crown, the monarch. All right, from 1455 to 1487, the wars were fought between the supporters of the House of Lancaster and the House of York. Two rival cadet branches of the royal house of Plantagenet. Remember, it was started by Godfrey V Caravan Jew, son of Folk, the ruler of Jerusalem. Okay? All right, so while folk is ruling Jerusalem, while Godfrey, his son, is ruling on the Iberian Peninsula, his father folk is doing work in Jerusalem. Okay, he's doing work in Jerusalem. All right, protecting both land masses. The conflict resulted in the end of the Lancaster male line in 1471, leaving the Tudor family to inherit their claim to the throne through the female line. Conflicts largely brought to an end upon the union of the two houses through marriage, creating what they call the Tudor dynasty. That was subsequently ruled England. Okay? All right. And we're talking about England when it was going back to Alfred the Great. The War of the Roses was rooted in the English social economic troubles, which caused by the Hundred-Year War. We just read about that, right? We just read about that, and all that trickled down to what it is that we have today. Okay? To what we have today. I'm not even going to get into that. So, to make a long story short, we need to understand that when we're looking at this with the eyes of the soul, or the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus, or the eye of the Father and the eye of the Son, or the eye of God, or in the eye of children, we must look at it on a molecular level, okay? On a molecular level, so the change can happen on a molecular level, okay? that you can now ascend to your divine state because why? You remember. You remember, okay? This is a part of the process. It wasn't by random that the evolutionary process took place, all right? Remember, original position, okay? Everyone was put in the original position at the start of the gun, okay? And when that gun went off, everybody was in the race to find out where it is that they came from, okay? You didn't come from here. You came from outside of here, okay? You came from out of time and space, okay? You came outside of time and space. The body is confined to what? Time and space. It was a time when it was, and when it's time when it will be no more. It must give up that space, okay? But when it gives up that space, and the space before that space got there, the question is who put that space there? Whoever put that space there for you to occupy that space and become you from the state of evolution to who you are now, that means that from that creation you must return, okay? And that was outside of your time and space, okay? We must understand that within the scope of this lesson. So with that, I'll stop and share my screen. And once again, I'll show this. Yeah, I'll stop and share my screen and ask the floor if there are any questions. Please let me know. All right, so that I can answer them. Any questions on the floor? Any questions? Remember, this is all about starting from the beginning, remembering yourself. And remember yourself is called ambiogenesis. Ambiogenesis. All right. Well, you must understand that how you got here before you became a living matter. Okay. Before you became a living matter. Let's look at that one more time before we go out. Where is it at? Look at that one more time. Ambiogenesis. Let's look at that one more time before we go. So none of y'all won't say you didn't know. Like I said, it's better you for to not know this than to know this and not follow it. You did not come from the habitable world. You existed before the habitable world because you went through that prebiotic synthesis, all right, at the state of evolution based upon the ambiogenesis process that originated from what we call nuclear DNA to mitochondrial DNA. Okay, you must understand that. So ambiogenesis is a natural process for which life arises from non-living matter. Okay, non-living matters are non-living chemicals and physical parts of the environment that affect living organisms and the function of in the ecosystem. You hear that? So this is happening on the molecular level. So in order for you to move forward, you must understand engrams. You must understand engram because you're on a journey. Okay? Is the lion and the wren in hierarchy similar? I don't think so. Okay? If it is similar, it represents the highest stage. Okay? The highest. Lion is the king of the jungle. Okay, man is king of the world. Okay, bird is king of the air. Okay, the whale is king of the sea. All right, so it's just symbolic of a stage and hierarchy. Uh, just like the prokaryotic cell is like the king. Okay, and that which became prokaryotic was that which the prokaryotic cell governed. You know what I'm saying? So everything in the animal kingdom is subject to what that lion say. If they don't, he might get eaten. They might get eaten. Okay, but no, the wren and the lion are not similar. Have no similarities. I don't think. Okay, Engram. Engram is a unit of cognitive information imprinted in physical substance derived by means by which memories, we know what memories are, conscious thoughts, and biophysical and biochemical level. Biophysical means that you are actually on the walk. See that? You're actually moving. All right. Biophysics is an interdisciplinary science that applies the approach and methods traditionally used in physics in study of biological phenomena. Biophysics covers all scales of biological organization, from molecular to organisms and population. Biophysical research shares significant overlap with biochemistry, molecular biology, physical chemistry, psychology, nanotechnology, bioengineering, computational biology, biomechanics, developmental biology, and system biology. It all has to do with molecular change. Okay, changes on a molecular level. You see that walking, right? Back and forth, back and forth, building blocks of life. Okay, and biochemical. Biochemistry and biological chemistry is the study of chemical processes within the relating to living organism. I'm gonna give you one more. Cell lineage. Okay, since we're on the topic, cell lineage. Okay, all part of transduction. So you got to know your cell lineage, not just your ancestry. All right, because that's all we know. Do you know your cell lineage? That's what you got to know to make it out of here. Okay. See, that's why I said blood by blood. Okay, by blood. Blood is the dominant is dominant by what we call the molecular and biological structure of our cells. Okay, so cell lineage is the notes of development of history of tissue or organism from the fertilized egg. This is based on the tracking of an organism's cellular ancestry due to the cell's division, okay, and relocation as time progresses. This starts with the originator cell and finishes with the mature cell that it can no longer divide, okay, that it can no longer divide. There was one more I want to get. I had it right there. Cell lineage. What was the other one? Cell lineage. There was one more. Cell lineage. Got it. I thought I actually got lectures on it on the on the podcast, so you can scan through it and you can definitely see when I speak about this cell lineage. Okay, very 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 important. So with that, I think I had you all long enough. Thank you very much, Brother McGowan, for your question, as well as your input, as well as each and every one of you here today. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Once again, you are in the process of awakening as a result of what we call transduction. Okay, transduction to awaken the God gene or the VMAT2 gene, which is supposed to happen at a certain point in time, and that time is now. If you're not hearing the call, you're pretty much out of luck. Okay, you're pretty much out of luck. So with that, your king is going to greet you as I always meet you, and that will be in peace and love. Thank you.